My name is Gregory Smith. I'm a United States citizen. I'm a resident of Santa Clara County, and I'm a member of this church as well. I moved to San Jose in May of 2012 after accepting an offer to work for a tech company here in Silicon Valley. When I first learned that Santa Clara County had very progressive immigration policies, I was excited to have moved to this part of the country. I was excited to think that I could finally leave that small Midwestern city. Perhaps my enthusiasm was a bit premature. It was not long after arriving in Santa Clara County before I realized that in many ways, life here for African Americans as a person of color might not have been that much different than the life I left behind. To help put my message into context, let me tell you a little bit about my experiences as an African American. I believe that the color of my skin definitely has an effect on how I am perceived. Even though I have family members that have served in the military and I have family members that have served in law enforcement, I still have this natural inclination not to trust law enforcement. I feel I have good reason. I have been arrested without being read my rights. I've been arrested without knowing what the charges were. I remember being in jail and calling my father and crying and telling him that I didn't know why I was arrested. I remember going in front of the judge and the judge telling me not to do it again and being excited. And then later, as I was being processed, I remember being confused because I don't even remember what the charges were. I remember another time when I lived in the Midwest where I was pulled over by law enforcement immediately after I started my bike ride home in 12-degree weather. I was pulled over, and they told me I was pulled over because they were looking for a white suspect that was riding his bike 8 blocks away. I was stopped and ID'd with my hands behind my back. And also, as an intern, I interned here in 2011 with a tech company as well. I was pulled over while driving on San Tomas Expressway because I had a GPS unit in my window. When I was pulled over, the officer came up to me and said, "What am I doing? What are you doing here?" That correct? What are you doing here? In my last interaction with that police officer, I received a warning, as I said, for the GPS device in my window, and I had no problems with that. But the nature of the officer's question and his tone still to this day did not sit right with me. In addition to being pulled over by law enforcement, I have had many issues and stories being followed as I shop in stores. CVS, Sears, Target, Levi clothing store, Whole Foods, and Safeway come to mind. I was once followed by 6 people when I was shopping with a friend in Whole Foods. I did not feel welcome in many of these stores. I very rarely try on clothes while I'm at shopping in stores because I'm uncomfortable with the situation around me being followed and trying clothes on in stores. There are no laws requiring that I get followed as I walk in stores. Yet, this is what happens because African Americans are criminalized. Our current policy tries to avoid criminalization of immigrants. It clearly states that law enforcement will not detain someone based on their immigration status after they have served their sentences. Now, am I a criminal? No. I'm not a criminal, not a gangster, not a drug dealer, not a convict, not a murderer, not a thug. I'm a musician, an engineer, an athlete, a Christian, a geek, an artist. Because of the color of my skin, I feel, in many ways, like a second-class citizen. Supervisor Chavez, I would like to strongly urge you to think about the negative effects that the proposed amendment would have on the trust that law enforcement relies upon to keep our communities safe. Thank you.